Hi, it's Justin Shore from Chronicles of EMS with another 60-second life-saving tip. Today we're going to talk about some of the specifics for your own family's disaster bag kit. What I've brought here today to the studio is my own disaster kit should I need to evacuate the area. You're only looking at part of it, but important things you need to remember are foods that don't require water to cook. Water will be very important. You're going to need at least a gallon a day per person. Canned foods, check the expiration dates. V8 juice for breakfast. Hand crank radio and flashlight. Extra cell phone with chargers for both your vehicle and for the wall in case you need to get to them. Duct tape, baby wipes, toilet paper, trash bags, Otter Pops, unfrozen, things that your family enjoys. Don't try to test out new foods on a cranky 3-year-old on the side of the road while evacuating. Keep these supplies where you can get to them, where they're safe in case of collapse. Check them often. Every year when your canned foods expire, donate them to charity and replace them with new ones. Until next time, this is a 60-second life-saving tip. And there are
the first social media save.
the first social media save. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, that was there's a blog which I read. Well, I read everyone's blog here all the time, but there's one pre-hospital 12-lead ECG, Tom's blog, and a phenomenal resource on 12-lead ECG interpretation. And I teach 12-lead ECG in my service, but I've learned so much more reading his. And I was reading something which may be very common to a lot of people, but it's not something we look at in our service, a right ventricular infarct and stuff. And I was reading his blog and I learned about it, and I learned about the importance of doing it. When you suspect an inferior, you do right ventricular trace. And the next day I had a patient who was developing an MI, but he didn't have enough elevation in his inferior leads to direct him to a PPCI centre. I thought, I'm going to do a right ventricular trace, which in that very small window when that's present, I caught it and then sent that off to the PPCI centre, and they went, oh, your ECG's not in our criteria, you can't send him. I says, I've sent you another one, look at his right ventricle, and they accepted him on his right ventricular trace, so he got his PPCI instead of going to a coronary care department. And that was through knowledge that I'd learned off reading someone's blog the day before. And I emailed Tom and said, look, just to let you know, this is what's happened, and he felt, wow.
Yeah.
But I can understand why other training establishments would feel very, very threatened about that, and why I didn't step out of any of my protocols or boundaries. I didn't do any treatment that I wouldn't be normally do. All I did was had another little look at his heart, from a different lead, just moved one lead. But to embrace it fully, and I assume it's a huge step for established training departments to let their students go off and learn all on their own off someone else's blog who you don't really have any quality control over. And that's the other thing that's hard for some services to accept, because how do they know, as me as a practicing paramedic, that I'm learning correct stuff off reading this other blog?
There's a leap of faith there, yeah.
So anyone can post anything. That's the internet. It could
right.
be anyone.
Well, but perchance services would say, we approve 12-lead ECG blog or paramedicine101.blogspot.com. I learn a lot from that blog. I post there occasionally, but I really just go there to learn. And perhaps agencies might want to get in to see, hey, our employees would like this, and we trust the information that comes from the Happy Medic or from UK Medic 999 or Miss Paramedic or...
Even Life Under the Lights.
I'm not going to plug
Yes,
my own
Life
blog.
Under the Lights, too.
And I remember there's this blog that comes from this British guy who mispronounces a bunch of words, and and it had an EKG, and it was a really funky EKG. And I took a picture of my coworkers reading this EKG, and all going, huh? And I sent it to the author of the blog, and he thought that was cool. So
Yeah, it was cool.
it was cool.
But it's about sharing.
It is about sharing, and sometimes there's not inappropriate too much sharing, but we seem to have so many opinions that we've started so many splinter groups, so many different tribes. You go on Facebook and you
Yeah.
type in EMS or EMT and paramedic, and there's the happy medic, there's the angry medic, there's I hate medics, there's I love medics.
Because I'm burned out medic. Yeah.
There's paramedics shouldn't be in red ambulances, there's fire trucks shouldn't be yellow, and we're splintered so severely, and yet we're all using the same media to try to communicate with each other.
But there comes the next problem, in that because there's all these splinter groups forming up, it becomes your personal choice who you want to affiliate yourself with. And if you affiliate yourself with the wrong type of group, and it's an open group, your employers can then look and say, I don't approve of you being with that group, and it can affect a lot of things. And I can't remember who coined the phrase, it was probably someone very clever, more clever than me, this thing about whatever you put on the internet is there for life.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and there's too many people that are too quick to type something when they're in a bad mood and go, Q, and it's gone, and you can't take it back. And we've all read blogs, probably that we're not subscribed to anymore, but we've read blogs that we don't agree with what they're putting, and sometimes you read it and you think, oh, that's a bit close to the knuckle, like, you know. But it's a choice everyone has to make. We've chosen, I feel, to do things the right way. You know, like we were talking about in the last episode, we regulate ourselves and we regulate our colleagues' blogs.
We really are starting to do that, and it's a good thing.
If one of you's read something on my blog and you thought that's a little bit identifiable, which I know hasn't happened yet, I would expect each and every one of me, I would expect an email that day saying, watch it, get it down, you know?
Absolutely.
And I would do it the same for everybody else.
Well, what kind of feedback do you guys get to let you know, other than the story you just told, Mark, which was remarkable, that you're reaching people, that you're giving them positive input, that what you say means something to them?
Mine's the personal emails.
Yeah.
You know, there's comments on the blog, which are great, and that's what stimulates the conversation on the blog. But every now and then, you get, because I just posted a story just 2 or 3 days ago. I was on station last week, 3 o'clock in the morning. I just got back, thought I'd get in the recliner. My iPhone went ping, and there was an email, and there was this beautiful story from someone who had been assaulted and had this really terrible injuries, and all she can remember is coming around and seeing these green trousers walking towards her, and obviously with a person in them. And that would have been just too freaky. And it was nothing about treatment or anything, but she says the way this paramedic approached me and the way he dealt with me, I'll forever be in his debt. But I don't know how I could ever get that message out, so I'm just writing to you to thank all paramedics and for what yous are doing and stuff. And it's the stuff like that. The EMS professionals that read blogs and communicate through blogs, they're spreading the professional side of it. But what really gives me a buzz is the members of the public who suddenly find that they're interested in what we do. TB Chick.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, our first
She's our real
donator. Yep.
She's
and
our groupie.
she
Our
flew out
fan.
for the premiere.
Yeah, I know.
and
Oh, that was so cool.
just- I mean, no real affiliation other than she enjoys the blogs. She likes what we're doing, and she's gonna keep us in check
Yeah.
when we go from city to city filming the reality
She'll probably be
series.
there. She'll probably come and say hi.
And if we ever get out of line, not only do we expect our readers and our friends to keep us in line, but also her.
So, by the way, PG just said you did a fantastic job there. I'd like to throw that out.
Oh, thank you very much.
And that post you
was a
wrote
good
about the letter, that provoked an emotional response in me. I'm sitting there reading it, and
But I'll just say one thing. That wasn't the post I wrote. That was her letter.
her
Yeah.
You know,
letter.
she deserves the credit for
Yes.
that. You know, all I did was share it with everybody else.
I got choked up a little bit.
And I'm sitting there and I'm seething with anger about the person who assaulted her when she told the story
Yeah.
of the assault, and I'm very happy she got treated, and I felt the emotion from that post. It was great content.
It was probably cathartic for her to be able to do that.
Oh, very much.
Yeah.
Very much.
And all because of Facebook, Twitter, blogs.
So let's.
powerful.
We'll address the question that our police colleague in the chat room asked a little while ago.
Yes.
He was asking, from a UK perspective, but this is for all of us as well, how our respective employers see what we're doing. You know, and I'll talk about ours first because everyone knows that the Chronicles. I came over here and I experienced what you did. You came over to England, but unfortunately we weren't allowed to film. And a big part of that was down to my employers still feeling very uncomfortable about social media. You know, they supported what I did. You know, they gave me permission to blog, which I was so surprised at. It took them 7-8 months to actually come out and for the board to say, yes, we're happy for you to blog under your name, and you can mention where you were. But when it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and because there's been problems with social media and people putting very inappropriate things on Facebook, which ended up being various disciplinary action and stuff, then it becomes a battle between them wanting to support us, but then if they support me and my blog outwardly and promote it, then what if the next person comes along and does something bad? How easy is it going to be to deal with them when they're supporting me? And my only feedback to that was constantly saying it's not about social media. Social media isn't a problem, it's people who use it inappropriately. I honestly believe I use it appropriately for the benefit of my service, hugely, and EMS in general. But I know if I mess up on my blog, and I know there are people reading my blog waiting for me to mess up. You know, just so you know, we've all got it.
It's my duty.
We all know there are people waiting for me to make that one slip. He'll go, "Have you seen what he's done?" You know, but that's what
The
keeps me
naysayers.
so safe. That and the fact that I've got a wife who's a paramedic and who supports me, and who, if I'm writing anything that I'm not immediately happy with, have a read of that, tell us what you think, should that go out or not. And there's been a good few posts where I've hit delete. You know?
I think a lot of that might also come from this need for anonymity among some people who are looking to vent. When I started, I had to be anonymous because of the way that I was telling the stories. I needed to share my stories, but I needed to vent some steam. It was starting to affect my life. The job was. So I liken it to blogging is like screaming into an empty room. It is just so relieving. You can get everything out. It's like they say when you're mad, you should write a letter, set it aside, and then read it the next day, see if you feel the same way. Blogging is very much like that. What I didn't expect was people to come stand in the room and listen, and then find out that they had rooms that they were shouting into. And that whole network sprung up, and it wasn't until this opportunity with Mark came up in the Chronicles that I felt confident enough that this is going in the right direction. I'm going to go ahead and let my employer know where I am.
But that was
what
a
I'm doing.
huge step for you to take.
That was
and
a
scary step.
It was a scary step. And I had gone back through some of my posts that I thought were maybe not completely appropriate, and I pulled them. You know, I started policing my own words, going back and thinking, if I had written that now, would I still publish it? No? Pull it. It comes down. Nothing too inappropriate, but you could just tell there was too much emotion there in the room with the patient, so I pulled it. When I went to the department and went to the chief of EMS's office and handed him a little fact sheet about what I was doing and with Mark, and pulled up the Happy Medic on his computer, he looked at it, and he looked at me, and he said, "This shouldn't be a problem, we knew about it."
Ooh, really?
So some of my coworkers had seen what I was doing and let the establishment know. And although they do not endorse my forum, I am not endorsed by my employer, they like what I'm doing with it and what I'm trying to do with it, and with Mark and with Chronicles. And it's really turned into a positive thing that I'm not worried about getting fired because of it. It forces me to be better. And I'm really watching what I write about with that in mind.
Well, and your department looks really good for having, when meeting the two of you and meeting Mark and embracing him.
Great
And,
one by Greg.
Yeah.
Greg Friese, sorry, I'm not meaning to just rolled off. Greg Friese said instead of, I'm going to get it up, keep talking while I get this back, because that was a really good point. Instead of monitoring and shutting down employee social media efforts because of negativity, employers should focus on improving employee morale and organisational culture, making it so they don't feel negative in the first place.
good point.
Well,
right.
that would be wonderful. If we were all in a good mood, we'd never have to blog and be
Yeah, it
angry.
would always be positive.
Yeah.
What
Well,
a great day
Would
I've
social
had.
media disappear if we
Yeah.
never had any negativity?
No, it wouldn't, because once you're in it,
Yeah.
then you realise the positive side of social media is meeting
Educational side.
so many more people. The world becomes a very, very small place very quickly.
Yeah. So, is it going to get bigger and better? Social media? I mean, what's next?